Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It is the Kings of the Heart podcast. My name is Tyreek Omari Walton. And as always, I am joined by the other King of the Heart, my man, my brother, Dr. John Hart. What is going on, Dr. Hart? How you feeling this morning, man?
Oh man, it's good to be here. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you.
It's gonna be exciting one, man. Feeling good, feeling great, my man.
Yeah. You know what, Doc, we just want the listeners to get the best information out there, right? So we come
Right.
on here every week and we share what we know as clinicians, as licensed marriage and family therapists. But every now and then we want to bring in other experts.
Absolutely.
And today we have a very special guest, an old friend, someone I had on my old shows way back in the day. And she is a businesswoman. She's an entrepreneur herself. She has been working in this field for a very long time.
Nice.
She has her own company where she's working with clients on helping them establish better profiles for their online
That's important.
communities and just
Yeah.
helping people really get out in the dating world in the proper way.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
want to welcome to the show Miss Erica Etten.
Nice.
Erica,
Welcome.
welcome, Erica.
Welcome.
That's me. Thanks.
It is Erica. And Erica's company is called A Little Nudge.
Uh-huh.
Right? Erica,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about A Little Nudge and what you've been doing and how long you've been doing, because I know you are a veteran here.
I am. First of all, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
My pleasure. 12 and a half years
Wow.
I've been doing this. I know. It surprises me every day. But no, I was one of those people. I was a really early adopter of online dating, which I'm going to tell you something a little crazy. I started doing online dating in 2001. Okay, let's think
Wow.
Oh
about that.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Nobody did online dating in
Uh,
2001.
I was almost
But
there. I did my first online date, actually my only online dating back in 2004, somewhere
there
back
you
around the same
go.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was well before, well,
the
it
the
was
the
well before
huge the huge launch, right?
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
exactly. So what did I know? I'm just like, this seems cool, So I went on there on and off, and my background's actually in economics, and so
Wow.
I put together two things I really liked: online dating and spreadsheets, like one does. And I started tracking things in there. Like if I write to somebody, what's my response rate? Like, does he write back? If he does, do we go on a date? Like, what's my conversion rate from response to date? And I made little tweaks to improve my results. That's when my friends started asking me, like, what are you doing that I'm not? Help me. And so it sort of all came together. I was working in finance. I wasn't thrilled with my job. I was helping friends with online dating and loving it. So yeah, in early 2011, I quit my job and started the business.
Wow,
Nice.
that's
Nice.
absolutely amazing. And so here
Yeah.
you are
Thank
12 years
you.
later, and
Yeah,
you've
here
been
we
doing it.
are.
How long
Yeah.
have you been doing it full time?
Always full time.
Always full time.
I never wanted to have a crutch, so I quit my job before I started the business, which,
Mm.
Wow.
looking back, I'm like, wow, I can't believe I had the guts to do that. But I'm really glad I did because, I didn't want to have the safety net of a paycheck of my former job because I didn't think I would work as hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing.
Wow. I was pretty
You're
gutsy.
taking chances. You're taking major
Absolutely.
chances
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Before we get too far into this, I wanted to. I just have to show this. I just have to show this old clip of Erica
Oh,
on my old TV
gosh.
show. You can see not
I'm so
only
nervous.
yeah, you
Nah.
can see an old Tyreek. This is 9 years ago on my
Oh,
old show,
geez.
Views and Vibes. So take a look real quick. Let's see if I with your clients. I know that you show them how to set up dating profiles and
Yep.
everything too. But in your discussions with them, once they meet someone, what kind of things do you tell them to talk about from Jump Street? Are you telling them to be completely honest about who they are and how they should view a relationship, or what kind of relationship they want, or what?
That's a really good question. So, in my job, I do help people market themselves online. And people always ask me, kind of back to the marriage question, what is your success rate? Well, I don't base success on marriage because whatever makes you feel successful is success.
Right.
An unhappy marriage is not successful, whereas happy being single is successful. But anyway, I tell them, it's funny, so I have kind of an order of things they should bring up, sort of. So the first date, I tell them just to talk about casual things. I always say, make sure you can stand each other before you decide if he's going to be the father of your children, right? Because you don't want to be like, so what's your timeline? What's your
there you go.
And that's
That was
that's consistent. And
I was gonna ask
boy,
are
you and I are
still doing the same?
adorable. Okay.
It looks exactly the same. It's been
Oh, I don't know, but thank you.
That is hilarious. So I just had to share that. Had to bring that back.
that
I
was
love
great.
it.
That was
That made
great.
me happy.
Yeah,
And
that
so,
was
and so
great.
you said, like you said, that's still consistent. You still think the same way. You're still giving the same kind of insights and
Oh
and
my
advice to
gosh,
clients.
100%. I just, I might have more little names and things to call, dating terms now, but the same is true. I mean, I think too many people put pressure on themselves on the first date to feel something, for this to be like evaluating their future spouse, if that's what they are looking for. And I always say, I would rather you learn nothing about the other person on the first date, but remember instead that you laughed, that you had fun, that you felt attractive, that you felt attracted maybe a little to the other person. The rest will fall into place, but you have to make sure there's a baseline of just rapport before anything else.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's some of the things that we as clinicians, we tell our clients as well, because we'll find, well, I know I have a lot of clients who have gone from being married to now being divorced and single
Sure.
again.
Right.
Yeah.
And as they're stepping back out into the dating world and all the pressure they're putting on themselves for this to become something new, and I say the same exact thing. Just go out and have a good time. You're
Right,
going
exactly.
into the idea that this person has to turn into something long term, and it doesn't. It really is just about finding out, are you compatible? You don't need to know whether they've, what happened in their last relationship. You don't need to know what all their goals are. All that isn't really necessary to get to know the person in a way that is going to move you from date 1 to date 2.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think people think they have to go through this checklist on a first date. Did you do this? Did you do this? Tell me about this. Tell me about that. The number of people who ask your divorce story on a first date is sickeningly high, in my opinion, because stop trying to evaluate people on their past. Presumably, if anyone has done even a modicum of work, they're going to be a better partner this time around. So you look hard enough, you'll find something you don't like about someone. Stop looking so hard.
Yeah, that's right.
Agreed. So even before you can get to the first date, you have to make sure that your online profile is such that people are going to want to connect with you. It's a big marketing thing, right? This is what you're stepping into. You're stepping into marketing yourself. So what are some of the tools that you provide for your clients? Don't give away the whole story, but what kind of tools do you give to your clients to at least get the profile up and begin to attract the people that they want to attract?
I think a lot of people make the mistake of being really generic in their profile, thinking I have to appeal to everybody. Or they make the mistake of not even writing words in their profile. And then all we have to do is base our interest on your pictures. And so when I work with clients, I ask them fun questions to try to get to what their personality is. No, it's never going to get to the root of your core being and your values. That stuff will come out. I want to know more. What's your favorite snack? Like, do you have any, stupid human tricks? Where's your happy place? Like, what do your friends tease you about? Those are all questions I ask clients, and I learn the most fun things that way. Like, what is your favorite snack? Either of you?
Me?
Yeah.
Apples. I love apples. Let's start there. That's what
I love it.
That's what my wife wants me to say. Apples.
Okay, say no more. So your apples, John. What do you like? What's a snack or something, or anything you really enjoy?
I like homemade chocolate chip cookies. Yeah.
Yum. Who doesn't?
I
And
know.
mine,
Right there. That's what I really
I'll
like.
yeah, that's I knew that. And we'll call mine. I like hummus and pita chips.
Nice.
So now I might write in a profile something about apples, something about homemade chocolate chip cookies. Like, you could even say, "Ask me the secret ingredient,"
Yeah.
or I might say, like, "Don't knock cinnamon pita chips until you've tried them." Whatever. It doesn't get to who we are as people, but it makes
Right.
us interesting enough that it's planting what I call message bait, which is something someone can either ask about or respond about. They feel brilliant because they've asked you a relevant question. Wow, I wonder if the secret ingredient is walnuts. Good thing I'm not allergic. They've found something relevant in your profile. They feel brilliant, but really you're brilliant because you planted it there.
Yeah. Nice.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
John, did you have
So
anything?
that's what I do with clients. We just go through some fun questions that maybe they haven't thought about. I always ask their happy place. It baffles me only because I'm a city person. How many people are like, I love the water. It makes me relax. And I'm thinking, whoa, I like,
Uh,
but at least you learn about them that way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Are there any Erica, are there any common anxieties people enter, when they're interacting with you? Have you picked up over the years, like, what are some of the common trends where people are like, I'm really nervous about this, or I'm not really sure how to manage
Hmm,
this? So, because anxieties are always there whenever I'm talking to my clients when they're
sure.
starting to date. So I'm just kind of you're like literally behind the scenes in this particular phase,
Nice.
right? So any common anxieties you've heard over the years?
All of them.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just like people you work with, a lot of my clients have been married for a long time
Yep.
before. So dating is not the same. I would say texting is probably the
Mm,
most common anxiety. What do I text before a date? What do I text after a date? How much do I express my interest over text? Do I put that emoji? What did that emoji mean? They didn't
mm,
answer for 3 hours.
mm,
Texting brings up so much, in my opinion, unnecessary anxiety, but I understand why the anxiety is there because we're all attached to our phones. And if someone doesn't answer us in what we deem to be a timely fashion, it causes a lot of
mm,
anxiety these days.
mm,
And it's interesting. I don't know if you see this too. A lot of people attribute that. I know attachment theory is big. A lot of people attribute that to anxious attachment. I actually think it's technology, number one. And
yeah.
number two, the other person. If the other person's not giving you the validation you need, even if you're the most secure person in the world, who's not going to feel anxious?
Good
Right.
point.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yep.
I think
So
about, go ahead.
texting, yeah.
Texting. I think about, just the way that people communicate who they are. And then sometimes you realize that there's not a lot there. And I'm curious, as you're helping people build their profiles, how often do you come across people who just really aren't that interesting and you have to work hard to make them seem interesting?
Oh, that's funny. That's a good question. Well, so I start every client with an hour-long Zoom call where I get to know them and get to know what they're looking for. Most people take the full hour because who doesn't love talking about themselves? But,
True.
some people at 30 minutes, I'm like, la la. And so I'm never going to write something or suggest they write something that's untrue. It's just really bringing out, like if I see a client's eyes light up,
Hmm.
I'll ask them more questions about that. If they tell me about the time they went to their grandmother's lake house in Georgia, I don't know, I'm making this up, I'll dig deeper into that to see what I can get from that, to see what I can pull. Maybe you really like lake life. Maybe you're dreaming of buying a
Yeah.
kayak and having a dock one day. That's something I might put in the
Mm,
profile that wouldn't necessarily be relevant or wouldn't necessarily not relevant. What's the word I'm looking for? Realized from talking to them.
Right.
mm,
So, I'm digging. I'm doing the best I can.
I'm sure you have
Um,
to.
yeah, and it's funny. Like a lot of people, when I talk to them, say to me, "I know I'm so boring," and I have to remind them, "You're only boring to yourself because you live with yourself." So don't say that on a date because so
sure.
much, so much of life is framing, and so if you say the same thing in two different ways, I'll hear it in two different ways. So if I ask you your hobby and you say, I like watching The Bachelor on Thursday nights, but you act all like, woe is me about it. Like, I know it's so embarrassing. I watch The
Yeah.
Bachelor on Thursday. I'll be like, I'm embarrassed for you.
Hmm.
But if you're like, you know what? I work really hard every day. And the thing that makes me the happiest on Thursdays is watching The Bachelor and eating pad thai and drinking a glass of red wine. I will love that because
Hmm.
you've expressed that you loved it.
Right.
So
Mm,
much is about how you frame things too, and really how you feel about yourself.
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. Wow. Have there been moments where folks want to overshare? Right. I mean,
Oh
like
my God. Yes.
that's the other trick, right? Like we have folks who will kind of struggle on what to put, but then like let's also be as inclusive as possible. We also have people who will overshare,
Oh my
and that
gosh.
and
Every
Really
day.
want to
right.
sell themselves, right?
Yeah, like there's overselling, and I can imagine in your line of expertise, Erica, it's like what advice have you given those folks, or what concerns have you shared with them about the oversharing?
Yeah. The advice is don't do that. Um, a, Yeah, a lot of people overshare thinking I should get all of this out now. I should
Right,
spew out
right,
all the bad stuff so
right.
that way you know what you're getting. Well, that's not advice I would give.
Right.
I mean, I see profiles sometimes that talk about the the divorce they had and someone cheating and this and that. That is not for public consumption.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
again, I recommend just, you're not writing anything that deep. You're writing what makes you happy. You're writing things you enjoy doing, maybe places you've lived, maybe what you do for a living, the surface stuff, because all the other stuff is going to come out. And I would give the same advice for on a first date. People sometimes think they have to just like, whoa, all the things on the first date. Here's my medical history. Here's my relationship history. Take it or leave it. But why wouldn't anyone leave it if that's the only data point they have on you? You know, let someone get to know and like you for who you are. And then that stuff will come out when they already have a baseline of who you are as a person. But in a vacuum, just telling people all this negative stuff about yourself, that's not going to do anyone any good.
Facts.
And why do you think people do that?
Right.
I have my own theories, but why
Yeah,
do
right.
Oh,
give the entire...
Because they've been hurt in the past, because something has come out that someone didn't like. And now they're saying, well, I better get it all out early. And it's reinforcing their belief that people don't like them for that thing. But it turns out people don't like them anymore because they're oversharing. Not for the thing they're actually sharing. It's because they don't have the self-awareness to know when to shush.
Right. Being too transparent too early can really crush your chances of getting somebody who may actually like you for who you really are.
Exactly. Who doesn't have something about themselves that's not like the most positive? We all got stuff. I have a circulation problem in my... I know you're perfect, but like even little things.
It's not funny, man. You don't have
No, even little things. Like I can't do cold weather sports because I have a circulation problem in my toes. Okay.
Oh, wow.
If I shared that initially, someone would be like, she's never skiing with me. She's never this. She's never... Forget it. Take her off the list.
Right.
But who cares? In the scheme of life,
Absolutely.
it really doesn't matter. I'll sit by the sideline and wear some toe warmers and call it a day.
Right.
And it's just like, you don't have to share all of that.
Right. Yeah. When I think about too, people who have, let's say they do have a wonderful profile. You help them get the profile up. And so now they are more marketable. They're more attractive online. And people begin to reach out.
Oh, we got to talk about pictures first.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. Yo,
the pictures. About that. Yeah, let's talk about the pictures.
Oh my God. I mean, I post a lot of things on Instagram of maybe not the best things people post on their profiles. So I recommend 5 pictures total, 6 on Hinge, which requires 6. The rest don't require a certain number. A nice clear shot of your face, a full body, you doing something interesting, and then just 2 of you in your element. People make the mistake of overdoing it with the pictures too, or showing lifestyle pictures. Like, here's my boat. Here's my zucchini that I grew. Here's my this. Here are my group of 20 friends, and you can't find me. So pictures of yourself that show who's going to show up on the date. That's all people want to know. Who's going to physically walk into the date?
Absolutely.
That's what they need to see. No bathroom selfies, no shirtless, no gym, no pictures with a million friends. I would probably avoid pictures with kids too, because we don't know. Do you have permission? If they're little, do you have permission? But if they're grown, I hate to say this, like if you're a woman, if you're a woman looking for a man online and you have a grown daughter, that man, I'm sorry, whatever, is going to look at the daughter. I mean, who doesn't look at the younger person first? Also, if you're a grown man and you have a grown daughter, like, we don't know if that's your...
Erica froze.
Your daughter. So it's just like, I lost you for a second.
There we go. We got you.
Back now. You froze for a second, but you're back.
Oh, here we are.
Technology.
It's because I didn't have my toe warmers on. That's why.
That's fun. That was really good.
Thank you.
No, I mean, it's I look, on Kings of the Heart, we're always, we give a lot of advice and we talk to a lot of issues, but we also keep it real. And I think what you just shared is probably some of the most realist advice I've heard concerning dating profiles. I didn't share as well. Like, but I was in the later generation, of joining online dating. Actually found that's where I found my now wife.
That's great.
I was in and out. I was quick. I wasn't trying to do that long.
Good for you.
Yeah, I was in and out. I wasn't there long. But I will. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, and but as you were listing like the different kinds of photos, I'm not gonna lie, I was laughing to myself because I started recalling all the different kinds of photos I was seeing. The
Mm-hmm.
kids one. Now that I'm a father, the kids one, I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't expecting that one. I think I that hit me differently. But I can also see now that I do have clients. I know Reek does too. I do have clients who are either they've been married before, so they have kids who are much older. They're taking
Mm-hmm.
pictures. So I really appreciate you naming some of the other ones that for folks to just really consider. And I think the ones with kids, like that's
Yeah.
a really big one. So I appreciated that, like frankness
Yeah.
about that. That's a good one. That's a really good one to flag.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and I think what I'm hearing you say is that mostly what you want people to do is show their fun side. Show who they are on their best day, because this is who people want you to show up as, not just
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Just be the real you who's going to show up. That's
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so now that they have the perfect profile up, how
Mm-hmm.
do they actually communicate? Well, if people are communicating to them, if people are reaching out to them, what
Mm-hmm.
advice do you give them about how to be discerning in who you pick and who you communicate with and who you connect with and what they should be looking for on other
Mm-hmm.
people's profiles?
I wouldn't be too narrow in your search. Just because an option to search for a certain thing is available doesn't mean you need to use it.
True.
So, like, you don't need to pile it on with, I want this height and this religion and this and this. Look, I know certain things are important to different people, but again, there's beauty in the unexpected.
Hmm.
So swipe on people. If you're not sure, swipe right or yes, because you just don't know. I think people get in their own way all the time when they're like, not my type, not my type, not my.
Absolutely,
It's like
absolutely.
most happy people are with someone who wasn't their quote type, because then you see the person as a whole person and not just someone you're attracted to.
Right.
Um, that first message is really important. I call it the how are you cleanse. I don't allow clients to ever say, how are you? How's your day? How's your weekend? What's up? Hi, how's it going? I think that's the full list, because it turns into a bunch of nothing. It turns into I'm working, I'm relaxing, I'm doing laundry. Nobody cares. Okay. I don't even ask my friend what they're doing every day. Nobody cares.
Right.
Yeah,
So I would rather you find something in the profile that you like and comment on it or ask a question about it. So, for example, if John, you put the chocolate chip cookie thing, I might ask, did you ever see that Friends episode with Phoebe making, the Nestle Toll House cookies? Or I might say, like, did you get the recipe from your grandma?
mm,
Tariq, apples, like we just passed fall. I might ask, oh my goodness, did you go apple picking this year? I missed it. Do you have any
mm,
orchards you recommend? I mean,
Hmm.
that's corny, but
mm.
um, so
Yeah, it's pretty
something
fun.
like that. Like I might say, you couldn't pay me to eat a Granny Smith apple, but maybe my mind could be changed. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
that's a good they're so tart. Anyway, that's a good message though, because it shows that you've read the person's profile and you're more creative than hi, hey, how are you? Then a lot of people get stuck in the messaging stage in the app. So it gets to boring conversation. What are you doing?
absolutely.
What are you doing? And
Yeah,
so I always recommend picking a topic and continuing to talk about that topic. Now, here's a little trick. If you're able to switch that topic into
right.
food or drink, then it's an easier segue. We should
Yep.
meet for that thing. So apples are easier.
Yeah.
Well, apples and cookies. I love it. So they're all pretty easy. Like, should we go find the best apple pie in the city?
Hmm.
That's a fun date.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Um, you know, uh, so I do ask people what they like to drink. I don't necessarily mean alcohol, but it could be
absolutely.
coffee. It
Yeah,
could be
Yeah.
alcohol.
could be
So that
cider
way
with
it
the
could
with
be
the weather.
Just beside it. Right.
yes, it
Yeah.
could be cider. So like I have a client right now who she just moved to San Francisco and she wrote, let's find me the best Negroni. So it makes it so easy on people who want to go on a date with her to just suggest a place. Like, I had a Negroni at this bar.
Right.
Let's
Hmm.
go there. And so like our job, I want to make things easy for people. They don't
Right.
know that that's what we're doing, but we're
Right.
doing it, because once you start just the hi, hey, it just ends up being a really boring conversation that never leads to a date.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. And so here you go. You have someone who found you attractive. They swiped. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure if you swipe left or right.
Right. If
They
you like
swiped right
someone.
if they
Mhm.
for you. You
Mm-hmm.
guys connect. There's something there that's connecting you guys. You're having a
Sure.
good conversation
Mm-hmm.
about a particular thing that they saw on your
Yep.
profile or vice versa. How do people successfully get from
Mm-hmm.
online to the date? How do they
Yeah.
get from, hey, it's great talking to you here, to let's
Mm-hmm.
talk offline?
Yep. You could just say that. I mean, usually
Yeah,
directness,
I'm telling you.
usually
But
directness
I hear a
works
lot of people
pretty
don't do
well.
that. I get
No,
that from a
they,
lot of clients. And
No, no,
they
no.
say,
You're
"Oh, we
right.
just want to talk online." It's
no,
like they just want
I
to have
Yeah,
know
no,
conversations
for
online
real.
all the time. They don't even
they
want to.
don't,
They're not even asking to go out.
Yeah.
I know they don't do that. So you could be as simple as, I like to tell people to say, I'm really enjoying our conversation. Would you like to meet, whatever, next week for a
Mhm.
drink? Or I know a lot of women, if they're dating men, do want to wait for the guy to ask them out, which is fine. But I might suggest that they say, I'm really enjoying our conversation. Where should we go from here?
Mhm.
I'm really
Mm,
enjoying our conversation.
that's a
Should
good
we
one.
meet for a drink next week to get to know each other? Or that's a great question. Much easier to share in person.
Mhm.
Mm,
And so that way it's not the overt asking on a date, but it's basically saying, I'm ready. Please ask me. Because for every person who wants to be asked sooner, there's another who wants to be asked later. And I often have to remind clients that the person at the other end has no idea what they want. They're not asking. I mean, maybe some are not asking because they don't ever plan to ask, but many are not asking because they just don't know when the appropriate time is and may not want to offend you. And
Mhm.
so I like to make things, I like to, give people things on a silver platter. Tell them what you want. I am really enjoying this.
Right.
I'd love to meet you in person sometime. Like, who wouldn't be flattered by that? And then
absolutely.
if they don't answer or don't address that, you're not meeting them. If they do, you are.
Right.
Great.
Right.
Yeah. 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 I mean, and to kind of follow up to that, Erica, what are your thoughts about the bi-directionality of this process, right? Like and as we all know, I mean, even for us
Hmm.
as relationship experts, it does go both ways. But
Yeah.
I think people enter the dating scene, whether it's through the apps or not, with this unidirectional kind of attitude and kind of framework that I think really trips them up. Not all, but I think there's like heavy expectations where like the other person has to do a lot of heavy pulling.
Right.
And that's where I've seen some people get sidelined, get pushed to the
Hmm.
side, and as I like to say, they end up playing themselves. I know it sounds harsh, but like that is the reality. It's like you're
Okay.
waiting and waiting and waiting, right? So I'm very curious about like what's your take and how have you talked to folks about your clients about like, hey, like this goes both ways. Like you can't just kind of sit back and kind of wait for everything.
Yeah, agree. You can't sit back and wait for everything. Also, momentum is really important. I suggest going on a
Mhm.
date sooner rather than later
Yep.
before you get buried in someone's queue somewhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, people think people read minds, and I'm
Right.
sure you see that
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I have to be the bearer of news. Not only do they not read minds, but they're clueless and have no idea what you want. So
Yeah.
until you tell
Right.
someone what you want, I would love to meet you, for example,
Absolutely. Yeah.
then they do not know that.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so, I think some people it goes deeper than that. They're not asking people out because they have a fear of it not working, so they'd rather just not give themselves the chance. But we don't have to get you're you're the psychologist here. I
Well,
don't need to get into that, but I know there is a fear for many people, and so it's easier for them if they say, "Well, I'm doing online dating. It didn't work." Well,
Right.
it didn't work
mhm.
because you didn't make it work, but
Right.
okay.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Yep. No.
Yeah. And so, what about the first date? So they do actually connect. They do decide, okay, we're gonna
Yay.
go out.
Oh wait, and they both show up, because let's talk about
Oh
how flaky
man.
people are these days.
Oh, that's
I'm
cold.
I'm I'm I, I am so frustrated with the number of flaky people. Like, I actually set up dates for clients. So
Right.
a major service that I offer, as crazy as this sounds, is clients hire me to essentially outsource their online dating to me. My team and I do the online dating
Hmm.
and send you on your date. Okay?
Right.
And so let's say I put in 3 hours to getting this date for a client, and then the other person, not my client, obviously, just 5 minutes before cancels,
Oh
or
Oh,
wow.
that's
God forbid
horrible.
doesn't show up, which has happened, and it makes me so angry. And it's just like, selfishly, that was my time. It was also my client's
Absolutely.
time,
Right.
Absolutely.
and I have to now manage my client's emotions.
Yeah. The
That
disappointment.
person didn't flake because of anything you did. You did nothing. They don't know you.
Right.
So I'm having a really hard time with that lately. Not just with dating, just across the board,
Yeah, absolutely.
with people just being so flaky and just so like disrespectful of other people's time. So
Speak
all
on
I
it.
ask is like, remember there's another person who had to like take a shower and get dressed and
I'm telling
go
you.
wherever you're meeting. Be a good person. Okay, now we can get back to your question.
No, but that needed to be said. I mean, that goes without saying. And
It's
again, I
just
appreciate that. I know
really
Reek does
frustrating.
too, because then what happens is then that level of hurt and disappointment comes into the therapy room, and then now we're working on like unresolved trauma, and then now
Correct.
that person has backslid,
Yep.
and so what Erica is mentioning, like we
Abandonment.
need folks to understand that, like, you know, she's right. Like, be a good person. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
It
Like,
doesn't
just
take much. It
it
doesn't cost
doesn't.
anything.
It really doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, just be a good person, because you need to understand that's going to be both interpersonal and intrapersonal issues by you being a flake. And let's be honest, I'm not trying to be a bad person here when I say this, but you also have to be careful, because everything has a return. All right. And so you need to be very, very mindful of like how you show up in the dating scene, because there is another person that's a human being, right? And so I think, and that's the part where I can imagine for Erica and her team, like the frustration, because it's even harder for us as therapists when you do see the unraveling happening in session because someone flaked. It's really hard.
It is hard, and I'm glad you said that, because it doesn't just have implications for the 5 minutes of when you show up and realize someone's not coming. It has like much deeper
Right.
implications, and it's not personal, but I understand why people take it personally.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I remember back in my single days, because I wrote my book way back, it's just a damn day back in '06, and I met a lot of dating coaches. I met a lot of matchmakers, and even if I wasn't using their services, they would sometimes send me on dates to evaluate their clients. And the client didn't always know that's what was going on.
Right.
They were hoping that there would be a connection.
I've
But
done that before too.
like, you're going in like I'm a spy.
Uh-huh.
And so, I would go in and I would meet these people and I would talk to them and I would get a good sense of the kind of data that they are. How often do you run across with some of your clients who are just genuinely bad daters?
I mean, it's so hard because I can't be on the date with them, so I don't know what's going on,
But you
and
hear the
I
stories
only
back
get
from them later on,
I only get their side.
Sure that, yeah.
And so I did do that once. I sent a friend out with a client of mine, and I told him it was a friend. Like I didn't keep that from him or anything. And obviously, look, I would have been thrilled if they had a connection, but gosh, the feedback was invaluable. Like lovely person, 40-year-old man. She told me he talked about his mother 8 times. And I had no idea that was going on.
Wow.
And that's not sexy, we'll just say.
not at all.
No.
Not at all.
No, he showed up, and I can't even believe this. He showed up and said to my friend, his date, he goes, "Oh, just FYI, I puked 10 minutes ago."
Man.
I don't know why anyone would. I don't know what's happening.
Right.
And then the mother thing, and then and it's just like, okay, now I have a better sense of how I can coach him.
Right.
And so, and he didn't take feedback as well as I would have wanted him to. I gave it completely objectively. I said, like, this is the feedback I got. Here's what I recommend based on it. There was no like feelings in it. But he was like, I don't talk about my mother that much. And I'm like, you've already talked about her 6 more times to me. So, it was just something to be aware. I wish I had a spy on every date. I don't. I know people are getting in their own way at every turn, but we can only do what we can. I mean, we see what people tell us, when they come to you, when they come to me, we can do everything in our power. But that's why back to the clip you shared, I don't measure success on marriages or long-term relationships, because what you do in that relationship is completely up to you. I present opportunities, dates.
Sure.
You have to take those opportunities.
Sure.
John, doesn't that kind of remind you of individual therapy? Like, we'll work with an individual and you're only getting their side of the story.
Absolutely.
It's not until they bring in, a mate. Like, I want to do a couple sessions, so they bring in their mate, and all of a sudden you get all this information. Like, hold on,
yeah,
we didn't talk about any of this, so now I'm getting a whole other perspective on who you are and what we might need to work on.
Yeah.
It's much easier when we have couples because now you're getting both sides.
Sure,
Only getting that one
exactly.
side, you have no idea that hey, you are the one making these kind of mistakes, and
Right,
these are the ways that these are the things we need to work on so that you're not continuing to do them in the long run.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I mean, yeah, people do it, and I don't think that will ever stop. And so
No,
I find Erica's story that she just shared very hilarious because we do see that in therapy.
Yeah.
People come in, play all types of games, they don't tell the full story, and then they want all kinds of validation and pity. And again, it just depends who you're talking to. Some of us are really going to give it objectively and in an honest way. And I appreciate you telling him, in a very objective way. Now, the defensive really sparked and he's clouded because he didn't even realize that he had mentioned his mom 6 times. So that in and of itself,
right.
you're dealing with a very complicated, nuanced, situation. So it'll take him a while. He may get there,
Yeah,
he may not, but
I
it's
like
gonna
him. I
take a
wish
while.
him well, but
Absolutely. Yeah.
it was good feedback though, and I think people do appreciate, and I'm sure your clients appreciate this too. Like even if I'm looking at someone's profile and evaluating it and telling them like what's not working, I always ask first, do I have permission to be honest? I've only had one person in 12 years say no, and I kept my mouth shut. I don't know why they would say no, whatever. But I don't mince words.
Yeah.
And generally people like that because like sometimes I'll see things people posted and I'll actually ask like, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
And I don't mean it in a mean way. I'm actually asking you what were you thinking? And usually the answer is I wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's good. I'm sure everyone we work with, all three of us, appreciates the objective feedback.
Yeah. We talk about that all the time. I can tell you how many times like John's like, look, I'm real with my clients. I'm gonna tell them
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
1000%.
I'm real too.
I
Again, most
don't.
people like that. Sometimes I could soften myself a little bit, but they're not paying me to tell them what
Absolutely.
they want to hear. They're paying me to help them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
Well said.
I was wondering too. What about pre-gaming? You mentioned the guys talking about.
That reminds me of college and like
I
having,
know.
he just threw up before the date. You have this concept of dry dating, right, where people are not drinking before they go out. But
Okay.
that's because people do go out, and they'll drink either on the date or prior to kind of loosen up. What
Okay.
kind of advice do you give your clients around, basically around pre-gaming? Is it if you recognize that they're feeling really anxious, they're really nervous about going into the date, that they do things that may help them relax a little bit before the date, or do you kind of tell them, hey, don't do that because you might make a few more mistakes than you would if you were not?
no one's ever asked that before.
Really?
No,
Yeah.
I'm certainly not going to tell someone to drink before a date.
Yeah, go ahead,
I mean, I might tell them. I've had I've had clients go directly from work to a date, and I might tell them, like, give yourself a few minutes to decompress after work, because when you're showing up on that date
Absolutely.
in your work mode, I mean, the first 10 minutes are going to be not like warm and inviting. You're going to
No.
be still stressing about your day. Also, it might help to change outfits, even if you're going right from work. Things change when you are wearing different clothes. There are studies that show
Absolutely.
when women wear heels, they feel more confident, they act differently.
Right.
No.
And so, take off the blazer, put on a cute top
Right.
if that makes you feel cuter and sexier and more date-y. And if you're a guy and you're wearing a suit, like get rid of the tie and
Absolutely.
roll your sleeves or something, because that's huge. And so not pre-gaming in like the have a shot, go on a date, but more mentally, if you're feeling really anxious, give yourself that space before the date to relax. Also, going on more dates helps with that, because if you're going on so few dates, each one has an elevated level of importance. But if you're going on more, just like anything you might do, the more practice, the calmer you feel for each one, because each one doesn't have such significance.
Right.
That's a good point.
Fantastic.
Yep. That's a great point.
Thank you.
As we begin to wrap up this episode of Kings of the Heart, we like to do what we call the noble truths. So the noble truths are basically, what are your bullet points from today's discussion? What are the main things that you want our listeners to take away from what we talked about today? So Erica, give our listeners your noble truths.
Oh boy, so much pressure. I would say when picking pictures for the profile, think to yourself, are the pictures who I look like when I walk into a date? That's number one. Remember to go into each date just thinking, I'm going to meet a new person, not is this going to be my future partner?
Absolutely.
Yes. Just
And
a damn date.
yeah, it's just, I always love the title of your book. And lastly, it's okay to show it. Well, since this is, I know what the show is called. It's okay to show your cards a little. If you had a good time, say I had a good time.
Yeah.
Yep. Dr. John, what about for you? What are your noble truths this week?
I don't know. I mean, Erica's done such a great job. I don't really have much to say. I mean, she was on here killing it. I mean, things that come to mind, again, not to be repetitive, but I think just to uplift some of the things that she said that really resonate from when I think about clients. One, it is a date. Just chill out, just have fun. Don't stress it. I also appreciate the idea of taking feedback. Let's be honest. Like outside of like all the amazing work Erica and her team does, talk to friends, talk to family members, talk to other people, and solicit objective advice as best as you can. Because these are people who actually know you, so at least you can get some level of not just a stranger telling you. Not to say like Erica's a stranger, who runs an amazing business and is doing great work, but I think if you're going to really push this forward, really solicit objective advice from the people who know you best and the people you can trust from their feedback. And I think the last thing as well is Erica used a word, and it took me back to my dating days, and that is really make sure that you stay on top of the momentum. You own that part yourself, right? Do not allow or do not put yourself in a position where you are focused that the other person has to maintain that momentum. It's bi-directional, folks. You got to own that. And if you own it, I can imagine, to Erica's point, things could naturally and organically pick up very smoothly, but you can't sit back, watch, wait, take pictures, and then think things is going to happen. Nope.
Yeah. And I think my noble truth for this week is I only have one. Work with professionals.
I love it. Yes.
You're out there struggling with trying to find somebody and you're having a hard time with your current profile, if you're having a hard time dating or getting to the first date, turn to a professional. There are people out there like Erica. Matter of fact, let's go to Erica.
Yeah, I was gonna say just go to Erica, man. I mean, like her team is setting people up on dates. Like, man, what? You getting the whole package? Yeah, Erica, you had to drop it on you had to drop us a link or something, man, because like people,
I would love to.
This is comprehensive services. When I heard that, I was like, man, I didn't know this was happening out here. So we're talking like we're talking about wraparound services Erica and her team is providing.
Yep. So turn to a professional for that help. You don't always have to try and carry. We're therapists. We do this for you.
I know.
You need that extra help. If you just need somebody to kind of walk you through the process, they're there for you. So there are mental health professionals. There are dating professionals.
Absolutely.
And that's who Erica is.
Right.
So make sure you turn around and talk to somebody who can actually give you the help that you need. Right. So that's what we got for you guys. That is a wrap for today's show. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. Erica, please tell the people where they can find out more about you, social media, websites, everything. Please give us
Absolutely. My business is called A Little Nudge. Anything online, you can just look up A Little Nudge, alittlenudge.com. Instagram, my Instagram, I post sometimes mistakes people make online and give advice on how not to make those mistakes. It's often funny / sad, but always entertaining. And I just want to thank you for having me.
Oh, Erica, it was great having you on again after all of these years.
I know. I'll see you again in 10 years.
No.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
We have to have you back again.
We definitely got to have you back. Yeah.
Okay.
How can people find out more about what's going on with you?
Yeah, I mean, come check out all the amazing work and things that we're doing at kingsoftheheart.com. Always come show love to the page. You can also find all the great clinical work we're doing at the Relationship Counseling Center of Maryland. That's www.rccmaryland.com. And then just type in Dr. John Hart. I'm also affiliated, with the Vera Institute of Justice and just doing a lot of great work across the nation in terms of criminal justice reform and just addressing disparities. So, yeah. Brother Reek, where can we find you, man?
Well, you can find me, as Dr. John said, right here at kingsoftheheart.com. You can find us streaming the show live on YouTube and on Facebook on both of our Kings of the Heart pages. You can also hear us in just audio form on
Yeah.
all the different streaming platforms. So you can, you've been able to hear us there doing that for the past
Yeah.
5 years.
I know. Yeah.
So we're everywhere. We are absolutely everywhere. Just in terms of me, you can go to my website, TyreekOmariWalton.com. If you want to connect with me for clinical work, if you want to go for clinical work, you can go to InsightNFT.com.
My
And
man.
also you can go to my media page, ViewsAndVibes.com. Again, we are everywhere, and find me online, Tyreek Omari Walton. Just that easy. So anyway, look at great show, Erica.
Amazing
Thank
show.
you so much for
Yeah,
coming
this-
on.
Thanks for
Great to see
coming,
you
Erica.
again, and we'll see you again soon, Dr. John, brother.
Man, another great one, man. We did another
brother.
one. This is great. I mean, and like I said, when I'm out and about, I'm just gonna just tell people like you need to go get a little nudge. When I'm seeing people
Thanks.
set up there. So
Yeah.
great work, Erica. We're really glad to have you, and we're definitely
Thank
gonna have
you.
you back again.
Oh,
Great
I
work.
would love that. Part
Definitely.
2.
doubt.
Part 2.
No doubt. All right, guys. Look at everyone. You guys take care, listeners. We will see you again soon, and enjoy your weekend.
Peace.